Good morning to everybody. My name is Brock Zevan, a life coach, business coach, real estate agent, and a dad of the two little ones behind me here. Just very blessed and honored to be here this morning. And as we are every single morning, Monday through Friday, 8:15 to 8:30ish or so. Just a quick blurb, a quick little hit to be able to start our day, to start our weekend, to start our week, no matter where it is that we need always a positive start. We need to be able to get our minds right no matter what we have going on in our life. And today is not any different than any other day. So with that being said, welcome and happy Friday to you. If you got any notes, chats, or anything you want to add, feel free to put it towards any of the chats, either in Zoom or in Facebook Live. So this morning's topic I wanted to touch base on was literally about vacation and how your mindset is when you go home. Like, where are you in that mindset? And typically, I will share you my personal experiences, how my life was when I wasn't too excited about where I was in life. I wasn't excited about my job. I wasn't excited about what I had going on, my relationships, and I was just a mess all over. So when you're a mess all over, it's pretty simple to not really enjoy going back to the real world. The reality, the fake world is its vacation. And so for many times and many people, when you get done a vacation, what enters into your mind is like, back to work, back to the grind, back to getting up early, back to what I call sometimes routine, but not really a routine, because what we've learned is many people don't even have a routine to begin with. So it's just the back to that real world many people don't like. Well, that's because it makes sense, because 87% of the people don't like their job where they're at. So if you don't like your job, it's pretty safe to say that vacation is a lot better than the real world. So of course you're not going to want to go back home. And then you got to deal with mail, and then you got to deal with bills, and then you got to deal with just the reality of the world sets in. And all this takes place when you're going into it and you're just like, I don't want to go back to do that. Well, of course you don't. So what do I do? What transformed me when I was a school teacher, an alcoholic, poor as could be? What transformed? What changed that mentality? And I like this morning is right here in the back. There is my chair right back there is where I sit. And I start reflecting, and it's very easy for me to say, all right, it's Saturday. I really did not work too much this week. So what is my Saturday schedule going to look like? What is my Sunday schedule? How is this going to come into play? What am I got on Monday? Next week, I'm honored to be heading up with Brooke and Aaron, and they're taking Wendy and I up to a conference up in Michigan. And then I'm like, all right, I got that on Tuesday. I have my kids on Wednesday. I fly back in Wednesday night, and all these negativity thoughts start to come into my head. All right, give me a thumbs up. Give me something if you're not thinking the same thing when you come back from vacation, and all of a sudden it just negativity just pours into you. That's called life. And that's called the real world that takes place. And I'm not any different than anybody else that's on here. What do I do differently is I literally stop it right there. I'm like, okay, time out, Brock. Why are we going down that path? Why are we getting off negative town exit? No need to go down that exit. I don't need any gas from negative town. I don't need any food from negative town. So why in the world do I take this exit? Well, that's just because it's a nice, easy turn. And it's just like, I just like this town. So I immediately stop and I revert myself back saying, you know what? I had a great time with my kids. You know what? My love tank was filled during this week. My motivation and drive for me to be able to afford a vacation like this kicks in another gear and say, hey, if you want to do this again, you can't just coast. You better do something and get yourself energized. So I start writing down some positive things. I write down the fun time we had on our dolphin cruise. I write down the fun time we had our pirate voyage. I write down us playing in the waves, taking walks to the pier, spending time with them in breakfast, they're asking me to cuddle with them and play the tickle game, us being able to have ice cream. I start filling my love tank, my positive tank with positive energy. So that way, when negative Nelly, when the negative exit comes approaching me, I could say, nope, I'm good. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. But you know what? It starts to make me feel better. And then my reticular activator inside my brain starts to take over. And all of a sudden now I'm just like, man, I actually kind of excited to get back to work. I haven't worked in a while. I'm excited to be able to see what I can do, see what I can drum up. I got 6 months left in the business, less than 6 months. I start thinking about what I got in a positive aspect because I want to go on another vacation. I can pretty much guarantee this, that if I don't make any money, I can't afford to go on another vacation. My little peanuts down below. I can't take them places and do things if I don't make money, if I'm not recharged up. So the negative town suddenly leaves me, and the positiveness inside of me starts to be like, all right, I got this. I'm going back and I'm going to make things happen. I'm going to write it down and I'm going to take these notes that I wrote this morning. Okay. I challenge all of you on here. How many of you actually really write notes each morning about something positive in your life? How many? I know Pamela does because she sends it to me every single morning at about 5:15 in the morning. So hats off to you, Pamela. But how many of you write down affirmations about how good your life is every day? How many? And if you're not, just do that. Write down 5 things every day. 5. That's it. On good things that are happening to you. And do that for 30. Well, let's just try that for 5 days in a row. Then when you get to 30 days, then when I have my little powwow back there for it seemed like about a half hour, but it was probably about 2 minutes, whoosh, I immediately transformed. I transformed inside my brain, my mindset. Hey, this was fun. You had a good time with your kids. Let's do it again, Brock. And I have these conversations. So when I'm driving back home, now it's like, man, I can't wait I can call some more people. I'm very fortunate and blessed. I put a couple properties under contract this week. I'm fortunate and blessed that I have a phenomenal team. I got great people in my wheelhouse that these things could take place. I got people who help me with my personal life, with my animals back at home, watering plants. All these people are around me and I'm blessed. I'm thankful. See what Bryce Boyd's got back there. But I want you to write down these affirmations. I want you to have these conversations with yourself because eventually life will creep in and things will start to take shape and you will start to think these things and you have to be ready for when it comes in because I wasn't prepared for it to go down negative town, but it had me going down right down the exit. I pretty much was halfway down the exit. So I challenge you today. These little things that you can do to help prevent these. So when you go on your next vacation and it's the last day, because eventually it will happen, I want you to have a recharge. I want you to be re-energized. I said it in the beginning of the week, well, I need a vacation from this vacation in a different capacity, not for mindset, not for my love tank inside my heart, maybe physically from running around my head cut off the entire time. But that outweighs the love I have for my kids. That outweighs my why for my kids. And so I ask you what your why is. What's going to propel you going into the next? Guys, last week of July is next week. Where are we? How are you going to recharge yourself? That's what I got today. Recharge, motivate yourself, get yourself, write down your affirmations. It makes a world of a difference, guys. All right. That being said, let's get into a little bit either of a role play today. Somebody wants to talk about more of a mindset, how I did my shift, whatever that might look like in your world, your personal life, your business life. For those on Facebook, let me move my screen over so that way I see. Well, everybody was quiet this morning in Facebook. I didn't even get a good morning in Facebook. Wow, they really are just a little sleepy this morning. Claudia, good morning to you. But anybody have something they like to share with me in Zoom world? You can pop your mute microphone, just turn it off and come on to the screen. I know it gets a little scary being on the screen, but it's not too bad. Good morning, Pat. Anybody have anything they like to say or a question or anything they would like me to elaborate on or role play or anything else like that? Good
So
morning, Sandy.
just so
Oh, Pamela.
everybody
Wow,
knows,
look at it.
I
Pamela, look
know
at this.
it wasn't
Look
on
at this,
purpose.
Pamela. We can't even make this stuff up. I tell you, the synergy is already here.
Yeah. So I saw that. I'm like, oh, people are gonna think we're you know, sharing what we're gonna wear today, but no. So real quick, I'm supposed to go down Sunday for hopefully, a listing. And it's in South Carolina. And I noticed when I was kind of looking through the forms on the website and how to fill them out and things like that, the estimated seller and buyer net sheet, it actually says not to fill it out for South Carolina. It says you can be the source of the source. So of course I would tell them what the commission will be. That's really all I can tell them. So I just thought that was interesting. And I guess my thought is I'll just have something separate to write out, as far as, price improvements versus having those. North Carolina has the seller net sheet, where I guess South Carolina, we can't fill it out. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
There's many states that when I speak to agents and they're like, Brock, share with me your listing presentation. Many of them are like, a seller net sheet, what is that? New York, it doesn't even exist. Okay. When you're talking about people's money, I really don't care what the contracts say to me. I still do it. There's no commission police that's going to be busting down the door saying, Brock, I'm going to arrest you because you gave him a seller net sheet. No, it's the most expensive thing in their house, the most expensive asset they have. They need to have a seller net sheet. Now, whether or not there's a true form and you give it to them for them to sign, that's a different world. But I will give everybody a seller net sheet. I don't care what state you're in. It does not bother me one way or the other, because my clients appreciate to understand what their number breakdown is, because at the end of the day, they need to know their numbers on when they do it. And when we gave it to people in New York, they looked at us with four heads. Okay. I talked to you about that. I do a seller net sheet. Where are you seeing this? So Pat's in South Carolina, and Pat could be a good resource for you. Pamela, that she did say that she does a seller net sheet. So double check to see where you're seeing that.
I'll reach out with you, Pat. Yeah, because I saw it on the South Carolina group, and it has like files attached. So I was looking through the files just to review the forms, and that's where I saw it. So I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, definitely get in touch with her. She's on the Facebook group that we have, Pam, okay. And she'd be a really good resource to help you out with that. Now literally in New York, there is no such thing as a seller net sheet. I looked all over the place for it. We groomed it. We looked at it, and they literally, every state is different. Now, one thing I will say to you with New York, what I'm noticing is New York won't give you a closing date until all the documents are in order. And at first I was just like, well, that doesn't make sense. What, you don't have a goal or you have nothing to aim for. So what we did was we created our goal, but then you can't apply for it until everything is checked off, and then you can order it through the attorney, which I actually thought that made a little bit more sense in all reality, because how many times real estate agents are we going in, oh, I want to do my closing in 45 days. well, hell, how much problems can happen in 45 days? And how many times are we actually changing that date, changing that time, trying to re-coordinate it? And it actually made sense to me as an attorney. I mean, how many times they probably have to change their books and their calendar. All right, yeah, that's not going to work. Let me re-change it. So I actually thought that was pretty good in New York in reference to they don't actually put a date in a time until you have all your documents and all your compliances and contingencies are all checked off, and then you could put it in. So every state is different, needless to say, and I take different bits and pieces of each one. But I'm a very strong believer in like, guys, do we also know in like none of these, the seller net sheet, and Pat, you could share with me on this, but like in North Carolina, it's not required. Like we don't have to do a seller net sheet. I don't think it's required in South Carolina
No,
either.
it's not.
Okay. I strongly encourage a seller net sheet, as well as for those that are on my team that I coach. The seller net sheet is the form I give you before we even have a listing presentation. Yeah, it's not required. Okay. So, but you Pam, you and back right on point. Yeah, it to me, it gets, when I do my pre-listing packet and I send it over to them, as you know, Pamela, like that literally is sent to them because I want to know their objections on their numbers. It's very, very important to have that. And I can't see, I was just noticing the kids in the background, so I do apologize. I just, Pam, my Zoom screen is covering them up, and then I just look back there. I'm like, what are those two doing back there? So I do apologize. Like I said, it doesn't take much for me to get distracted. Um, Very, very good point. And Pamela, thank you for bringing that up. And those that are not practicing their seller net sheet, you really, really need to practice the seller net sheet. It is the most important thing out there. We literally right now for New York, we are using the North Carolina seller net sheet for New York, and we're using it that way. So that way people could see it, and they've appreciated it. So anybody else have anything? It is 8:33. Anybody got anything they would like to add, say, or question for what we got today? Yeah, I agree with you, Pat. Absolutely. We need to, they need to see these seller net sheet, guys.
So I just wanted to, yeah, can you
Yeah,
hear me?
go ahead, Greg. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I just wanted to emphasize that, because I was doing that in Michigan, the seller's net sheet. And it was interesting because I didn't even, at the time, I didn't know about it because, but one of the title companies I was using in their forms basically said you should put all the information in. So when they go to closing, they know what their bottom number is. So there's no surprises. But then I started realizing that it wasn't really so much a benefit at the closing. It was that when I go to the listing appointment, because the number one question is like, what are you going to list my house at? What are you going to list my house at? And if you don't know what it is that they want to walk with, then you're either going to manually do it. So I just think it is a much better way to get the close at the sale, because the way that I do it, and I'm the way that I've been taught with you, is that we work from the bottom up. Because when I talk to sellers on the listing appointment I went to, I said, did the agent provide you with the seller's net sheet? They went, no. I'm like, so did you, like, what is? They just told me this is what they're going to sell my house for. Well, what is it that you want to walk with? She says, yeah. And in fact, when we were doing the numbers, there was another $81,000 that they didn't tell the agent when they listed the home. Because I said, what other expenses do you want to pay off besides your mortgage? Do you have credit card bills? Do you have other toys? He says, well, I got a camper and I got this at 81 grand. And he basically took me outside and he was like, I don't even know I don't really tell my wife this number. Well, that's stuff that can come up that we need to know. So it's important. I think it's important to have that, because when you do get that when you get the closing disclosure and you get a call from the seller's like, well, what is this? This is like $50,000 less than I thought. Well, this is the opportunity to clear up all of that now, so you don't have that issue later. So that's what I wanted to point out.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a mindset shift too, everybody on here. Remember, in this market, it's much easy. Our conversations are different because there's so much equity in homes. But I want also the reason why a seller net sheet is so important, not for them. I mean, it is important to the client, okay, the potential client, but it's also important to us and whether or not we're taking that listing. Because if they tell me a number and your analytical people broke it down, and I've had people bring in spreadsheets to me and they're like, well, Brock, I need a net. Like I got one right now. He wants to net 230,000. And I'm like, man, you got about $20,000 worth of work. I'm going to have to change your price. You're probably looking at more 200,000. Well, Brock, I have to get 230. Well, I completely understand. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that. And when you are ready and the numbers make sense to you, feel free to give me a call. Different mindset, guys. The seller net sheet, just as important as to them, it's important to us to be able to figure out whether or not we want to take that listing. Because if not, I'm wasting time, energy, dollars of everything I've got going on in this listing. And then 3 months later, Brock, it didn't sell. So I apologize. I'm going to go with a different agent. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, sorry, you didn't sell the property. Well, okay. And then you go back and a week later, you see it on MLS and they got the new price down for what you said it should have been, but you just wasted 3 months of energy, time, and money. Nothing like irks me. I learned that the hard way. So now the seller net sheet's really more for me. Like selfishly, I get to make decisions just as much as they get to make decisions. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I can't make those numbers work. If you like, though, when you are ready to make those numbers, let me know. Now, it all depends when you get to it. And it's a whole other conversation I'm not going to get into now, but that's why we have price improvements and plans and different strategies to going into it. Because do I just cut it off completely? No, but I'm handling the objection face on, and I'm talking about numbers, not numbers 3 months down the road, because at that point, that's a reactive, not a proactive position. So, yes, Bryce. You made a fort. Wonderful. The day that we leave, you guys decide to make a fort. So that means we have more stuff to take down before we leave in about 2 hours. So that should be fun. Bye, Bryce. Anyways, so for those of you in Facebook world, thank you so much for being on here. Join us back Monday. Remember, if you want to be on our Zoom, that way you could talk, you can engage. I love when people on Zoom, so then that way we can have more interaction. But at the same token, Pat, have a great weekend and thank you for your share. But remember, Facebook world, you always can make your comments on there. It is being recorded, so that way you can watch it later throughout the day. So Facebook world, thank you so much. Zoom world, I'll be with you in a second here as I log off. You guys have a great day in Facebook, and I'll see you Monday.